entrepreneurs to rise, innovate, and create lasting impact. And today I have my special guest. He's a venture capital expert, a seasoned fintech entrepreneur, and private investment technology leader with over 15 years of experience. None other than Mr. Jeremy Neilson.
Hi, thank you.
Welcome, Mr. Jeremy on Entrepreneurship 101. And can you please introduce more about yourself that I missed?
Sure. Jeremy Neilson, live in Salt Lake City, Utah. Went to a lot of schooling, went to Brigham Young University, then Wake Forest Law School, then University of Utah for an MBA. Spent the last 15, 20 years in private asset investing. Started my career helping the state of Utah run a Utah Fund program, and then started my own businesses and eventually got into the SPV space and have been working in that space for the last 15 years. And thrilled to talk to you and talk about entrepreneurship and talk about private asset investing.
Yes, and thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the Mr. Jeremy. Thank you. And today, let's talk about the modern SPV, how tech is reshaping private investment vehicles. For our listeners who might think of an SPV as a dry, static legal shell, can you paint a picture of what a modern SPV actually looks and feel like to use today? What are the core user experience that's changed?
Sure. So SPVs have always been around, I guess, for many, many years. It's a legal structure. Basically lawyers created it to help their clients in making investments and placing their assets into a vehicle. And so, the name special purpose vehicle is descriptive. It's a legal vehicle in order to have a special purpose. And that special purpose has been to aggregate investors in order to invest into a single asset for the most part. So startup companies is a great example. In the past, when you wanted to do a investment into a startup company, when I say, past, maybe 10 years or more ago, you would go hire a law firm and they'd write some documents and they would charge you tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars to do that. And it was really clunky. You'd have to hire a team. You'd have to do the work yourself. And so over time, I got into this business when I was asked by AngelList to figure out how to do this for them. And so we figured out how to do this in a automated, I'd say automated, but more like a kind of a cookie cutter, a factory type way where we do it manually, but we'd have like a process and we could get the cost down much, much lower, $10,000 to $20,000 instead of a couple $100,000. And then over time, we figured out as we're doing this manually that we could then start to build some technology around it. And so we started to build a little bit of technology and build a little more and build a little more. And today, I've got software that will do most, if not all of it, automatically in the computer, click some buttons and it does things for you. And so today, modern-wise, that it's now very automated, much simpler, much quicker, and much more affordable than it ever has been in the past.
Much quicker. Well, people like that. Mr. Jeremy, to remove the inconvenience and give them the convenience. What is the single biggest pain point or friction in the traditional SPV creation and administration process that technology has the most effectively solved? What is it? Speed, cost, transparency, or something else?
Yeah. So I would probably say that the onboarding of investors is perhaps the most difficult, time-consuming, and has the most, I guess, room for error. And if there is error, then that trickles down almost like a waterfall into lots and lots of extra work and more due diligence and incorrect filings or incorrect taxes. All of that happens because of a issue with onboarding investors. And so if you can collect the information and have the onboarding of investors be clean and correct, then everything else thereafter is much more smooth. And so when I say onboarding of investors, it has to do with collecting people's subscriptions into this SPV. So I started to use the analogy of investing in a startup. So let's say you yourself like startups, you go to a lot of conferences and you meet entrepreneurs, and you find one that you really like, a new startup. It could be AI or agriculture or manufacturing, it doesn't matter. And you really like this entrepreneur and what they're building. And so you're like, hey, I would like to invest. And this entrepreneur says, great, I'd love for you to also invest. But he says the minimum is, let's say, $250,000, meaning he's not going to take a $10,000 check or a $100,000 check. So let's say you have some money, but you don't have $250,000. So you talk to your buddies and friends and other people in your network that are accredited investors, and they also like this entrepreneur and their idea. And so they'll say, I'll join you and we'll all of our money together will equal $250,000. And so when you do that, you need an SPV. You need to set up that special purpose vehicle. You need to set up an LLC. And then all of these friends and these individuals in your network, they all need to subscribe to that SPV. In order for them to do that, they need to sign documents. They need to send in money. And so that's where this onboarding becomes complex, and it can get interesting. It could get very difficult. And so what you end up doing is you need to have them fill out paperwork. And when they fill out the paperwork, they may fill it out wrong. They may be confused by it. When they send in money, the amount of money they send in may be different that's in the document. And so that's a phrase that I've created called a dirty SPV, when documents and money in the bank account and profiles are all off, wrong. And so that causes problems. So the software and the development of software in this onboarding process, where it's very simple for people to subscribe, it's simple for them to set up their profiles. The documents always match the money in the bank account. That turns into a clean SPV. And when you have a clean SPV, now everything else downstream becomes much more simple, much easier, and much more relaxing, because you're not worried or trying to find information or trying to remember something that happened, back in the day. And so that's what I would say makes that, the technology and the onboarding makes the most difference from the prior world of doing things manually.
Mr. Jeremy, let's ground this in a scenario. A first-time angel investor want to co-invest with 10 friends in a hot startup. How would the process have a look 10 years ago versus how it works on a modern tech platform today? What specific steps have been transformed?
Yeah. So 10 years ago, you would be doing something like setting up that entity with the state of Delaware, and you'd be faxing paperwork in. And so that right there should tell you a lot, right? You got to have fax machine or find one, fill out the paperwork, fax it in, and then they would be sending you the paperwork back. So there's delays and confusion and kind of ancient technology there. So you set up this SPV or this LLC with the state of Delaware by faxing it in. You then would need to go to like a law firm and get them to draft some documentation. They would then draft you some SPV documents. That would take them anywhere from a month to 3 months and charge you probably around $30,000 to $50,000 for those documents. Now you need to get individuals to fill out those documents. Maybe there's DocuSign. Maybe people are filling them out by hand. Maybe people are using a typewriter, but they're trying to fill out these documents, and they're filling out and answering the questions. Typically, they'll get confused. They're not sure what name to put where or what box to check. They're going to be asked to certify their accreditation status. And that's going to be like a legal document that's right out of code, where people typically are going to call and be like, I don't understand. Which box do I pick? They may have to call their attorney to give them an answer, to help them answer the question. And so then they would fill out the paperwork, and then they would then turn around and need to send the money someplace. So you would need to go into a bank account, go get a bank account open. You'd probably drive to a local bank branch. Um, Many won't open a bank account for an SPV because they want to see all the members sign the documents first, or ask a lot of questions that you can't answer. You're going to need a EIN number, so you'll probably leave the bank and then have to go and fax in to the IRS an application for an EIN number for this entity, this Delaware entity. That's going to take 2 weeks to come back to you. You then go back to the bank and you set up the bank account if they'll do it at all. Maybe you have to go to multiple banks. So you get the bank account open, and then people start to send in their money. And if anybody sends in more or less than they wrote on their document, so let's say I was an investor and I put $10,000 on my paperwork, but when I wired the money, someone took a wire fee out, so only $9,985 showed up. Well, now my documents are wrong, so now I have to redo my documents, or I need to send in more money. And ultimately, you then have to match all the money to the documents. And when all the money's there, you then need to talk to the startup, that hot startup that you want to invest in, and they're going to send you documents to sign. You need to fill out those documents, send those back to the startup. Then you would send in the money. Then you'd wait for more documents to come back from the startup. Then you need to manually create capital account statements, on the computer. You create these statements that would then give receipts to all the investors. You're going to have to create a capital account statement by reading, or a cap table for your SPV by reading all the documents and hand typing all the detail from all of those subscriptions into like a spreadsheet. And then when it comes to tax season, you're going to have to send all those things over to a tax professional and help them, handhold them on doing the taxes. And so it would have taken you 3, 4, 5 months just to get all this work done. A lot of back and forth. So that's the old manual way.
So let's talk about the new models and unlocking liquidity, Mr. Jeremy. We're seeing the rise of the rolling fund and the other subscription type models. What is modern agile SPV prerequisite for these innovative fund structures that blur the lines between the fund and the deal vehicle?
Yeah, so the modern is basically taking that manual approach and just tearing down every single step, every single task, every single requirement, and saying, can this be automated? Can this be decreased? There's been lots of innovation in lots of areas. So fintech in general has been very helpful. Automation around documents like DocuSign has been very helpful, and just more of a technological advancement with government agencies like the IRS, Delaware, and others. They have a little more technology, if you will. You can now apply online. You can now go through their portals. There's other services that are available now that you can aggregate and link into and integrate with. So with the SPV platform of a technology basis, and as you integrate and use these other services, you're now being able to cut down on a lot of these features. So now you can onboard investors much more quickly. You can open bank accounts very quickly, get EIN numbers online. You can set up entities more quickly. There's some new structures like the master series structure that allow for instantaneous entity creation. The computers can generate the cap tables and capital account statements. And now instead of weeks or months, with my system, you can set up an SPV in a matter of seconds. Today I was talking to a client and we timed it. It was 60 seconds to launch an SPV. Everything's integrated into the system. You just launch your SPV. The banking's already in the system. The profiles are already in the system. And so now you're looking at minutes instead of months in order to launch SPVs, onboard investors, and and make sure everything's clean and compliant and the way it should be.
Well, Mr. Jeremy, we like that. Fast. People like fast nowadays. For the venture capitalist or lead investor, how does the ease of using a modern SPV change the strategic playbook? Does it encourage more syndication, allow for more specialized sidecar vehicles, or change how they manage the pro rata rights?
Yeah, because of the ease of it, and one of it is the ease of setting it up and onboarding, and also there's an ease of managing it. So that post close admin that has also been assisted and revolutionized with technology and with the Sally platform, such that there's not this heavy burden of management ongoing where it just kind of layers and multiplies on top of you. So it allows individuals to be more willing to launch SPVs, encourage investors, and invest into startups. If there aren't individuals who are willing to take the role of GP, syndicator, organizer, then others don't have a place to put their money to invest. And then that decreases the amount of money that startups and other projects have to apply for, receive, and then use for growth. So if your price point for your SPV administration costs go down dramatically from hundreds of thousands to tens of thousands to a few thousand, now you're more willing to do more deals or smaller deals. So if before, I'm not going to do one unless I'm going to raise $5 million because it's $100,000 in fees. Well, now it's like I'm not going to do one until it's $350,000 of money raised. Well, now maybe I'll do one if it's $100,000 or $50,000 because the fee is so low. So people can raise smaller amounts, which isn't always what we want, but 50,000 is better than zero, and 100,000 is better than zero. So it gives people the opportunity to raise money when perhaps they couldn't. It allows for more individuals to begin doing syndication. And it's been my experience after 9,000 SPVs and thousands of clients that a client will start doing smaller deals as they first begin, and then they get larger and larger and larger deals. And so an individual who can't even get started won't eventually do 50 deals and raise $500 million for different startups because they never could get started. So the fact that people can get started for a small amount, that the process and the optionality is doable, easy, very functional for them, allows more people to enter into the ecosystem and a lot more people to participate in investment and a lot more groups to raise money from those that are willing to invest in those startups.
Mr. Jeremy, let's talk about the risks, regulations, and the future, and what's next. With the great power and ease comes great responsibility, isn't it? What are the new or amplified risks that regulators are likely focusing on as SPV formation becomes as easy as clicking a few buttons?
Yeah, so I think the risk would be that individuals are not properly evaluating the opportunities. But the federal government has already put in place a few of these rules. They have been on top of it for many years, and it's the accreditation standard. So investors need to be accredited, which means you have a certain level of wealth or income before you're permitted to invest. And so long as you stay within that framework, the federal government doesn't seem to be overly interested in getting involved in the in this new and faster way to set up entities and collect investment money. We have seen a interest in collecting more information about each investor. So the Biden administration was collecting more information and asking for that. The Trump administration with immigration and such, they're looking at collecting more information. And so what I would say is that as regulators do come up with different schemes or interest or projects, having technology allows you to weather those new increases or take care of the regulative burden that's now being placed upon you to collect the information, to report that information. um, and so I have not seen a big increase in regulatory oversight, even though the level of or the number of SPVs has grown almost exponentially. And perhaps it's great lobbyists with the NVCA and other groups that are very much a part of keeping regulators and government officials apprised of the situation and what's going on. It really is about the risk that I would say is that some people get involved with individuals or organizers that aren't being transparent. They're maybe taking too high of fees. So my advice is that if as you invest with these different organizers and syndicators that are launching SPVs, do your due diligence. There's a number of groups out there. You can find many to participate or affiliate with. And so just be careful that you spend a little time educating yourself about investing so that you can make an educated decision on the different groups that are offering SPVs to you and your money.
Mr. Jeremy, in 5 years, will term SPV even feel right, or will it be replaced by more dynamic term like investment pod or a deal syndicate or a microfund that better reflects the tech native nature?
Yeah, it's a good question. Even today, there's an endless list of words that are meant to describe the product, the opportunity, and so SPV is something that I use. A lot of other people use it. It seems to be the phrase or the term that's in the lead, if you will. But rolling funds are SPVs. Micro funds are kind of SPVs. I've heard sidecar. I've heard fund of one. I've heard SPEs. I actually one day made a list of all the different words or phrases that people have used and come up with. And many times we'll be talking to people and they'll be like, yeah, we do an affiliate fund. And, I'm like, well, what's that? And they describe it and it's an SPV. And so a lot of people just use little descriptors for it. I like SPV. I would like to see everybody use it just so we all get on the same page. I don't think it changes. I think in 5 years, it actually is more ubiquitous and used by more people than less.
Interesting, Mr. Jeremy. So, direct advice and listeners' takeaways for an aspiring fund manager or active angel listening. What are the top three criteria they should use when evaluating with a modern SPB platform or service to build this strategy on?
Yeah, I would recommend that you, one, work with people that know SPVs. Many groups out there know software, but they don't know SPVs. SPVs are very legal and they've got a number of regulatory and compliance uh, requirements to them. And so, working with teams that, even though they may create software, they do know a lot about SPVs. For myself, in general, I'm an attorney and I have been doing SPVs for 15 years now. So just don't go with a kind of a flashy UI UX, if you will. Make sure that those behind it are know that they can answer your questions, that they can help you understand what the features mean and why they're in the software. I also would recommend that you do find an attorney that you can talk to. Uh, you don't need an attorney all the time. You don't need to spend tens of thousands of dollars. But as you do your first and second SPV, having an attorney to bounce some ideas off or question a few things is very comforting and very helpful. Attorneys can be very expensive, and the SPV software, like Sally, very helpful in avoiding having to pay robust legal fees. But attorneys are our friends, and they can be helpful to us as we figure it out and get comfortable. And then the final thing would be understanding your post-close responsibilities. A lot of times people are like, oh, this is exciting, or this is interesting, or this is easy. I just set this up and people on board and then I'm done. No, you're not done. There is ongoing management. There's some taxes you need to do. There's going to be distributions in the future. Investors are going to have some questions. So I would make sure that the technology platform that you have also assist with those things. Otherwise, you'll be doing all that work manually and by yourself.
Very well said, Mr. Jeremy. Very well said. Before we wrap up our discussion for today, I'm inviting you to please do listen to my other podcast, people, because my abstract essay is already in 6th season, abstract poetry in 3rd season, and my book 101 review in 6th season as well. Comedy 101 3rd season, and my food 101 in 6th season too. Geography 101 love letters, movie 101 review, music 101 or 5th season, science 101, sex 101 4th season, and of course my trivia 101, law 101, mental health 101, motivation 101, entrepreneurship 101, and of course my Bible verses 101 are my baby podcasts. Please listen to them wherever you listen your podcast. So Mr. Jeremy, the end, or to end with a forward-looking question. What is one piece of counterintuitive advice you have for investors looking to leverage these new tools? Is it move slower despite the speed, to double down on the relationships despite the tech, or something else entirely?
My advice would be to get started. Everybody that I speak with, they're wondering, should I do it, or I don't have enough, or I'm not sure I can accomplish this. Just get started. It's like anything in our life. If you're kind of nervous, just jump in, try one. You may like it, you may hate it. We've had lots of clients that'll be like, hey, I don't really like this and I'm going to move on. This is great. So just get started.
Yes, stop procrastinating, people. Start now. And ask Mr. Jeremy if you're confused of what you're doing. Mr. Jeremy, I'm inviting you to be my guest on Law 101, and let's talk about your expertise and let's promote to the world. How's that?
Great.
Thank you. So can you please invite our listeners to support your advocacy, your business, or whatever project that you're doing right now?
Yeah, so my Sally.co is my website, and I have a YouTube channel called All Things SPVs where I teach you all about SPVs. It's not about the software, it's about the ins and outs and the behind the scenes about SPVs. If you really want to learn, if you want to understand, then check out my YouTube channel, All Things SPVs.
Yes, people, let's support Mr. Jeremy Neilson, because if you support him, he'll show more and more empowering SPV lives. So, Mr. Jeremy, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Welcome, people. See you soon.